Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Hindsight and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a speed paint video. Gonna just grab out my supplies. I really like starting off a piece with a undercurrent of watercolor. I use praying watercolors because I think they interact really well with most of my sketchbooks, and Prismacolor pencils lay really nicely on top of them. Anyway, this piece is a self-portrait. I thought it would be a good way to kind of introduce myself. This isn't usually what I go for. I don't usually do a lot of, self-portraits. They're not usually my thing, but I wanted to change it up and kind of work with representing myself on a piece of paper. It's actually really hard for me. I haven't been able to really decide on a way to draw myself or represent myself on my Instagram or here on YouTube. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot, but I wanted this piece in particular to be semi-realistic because it goes through a lot of the processes I have in my head most of the time. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Hannah. You guys can call me Hannah or Hindsight or both. I don't really mind which, but that's my name. I am a relatively young artist. I'm 23, going on 24. A lot of my art is traditional. That's my bread and butter. I really enjoy traditional work. Sometimes I'll like to do digital, but there's just something about traditional that brings out just a lot more for me. It's really meditative and relaxing. Got my start at a pretty young age. I don't remember a time where I wasn't drawing. It's just something I never really put down. It's how I express myself a lot. It's how I work through a lot of my emotions. And it's just a form of meditative therapy for me most of the time. It's just really nice to have people to share it with. I never really realized how awesome it was or could be to share my art online, especially on Instagram and a lot of my pieces use watercolor and colored pencil. Those are the two I use the most, but sometimes I'll bust out the gouache or the alcohol markers. I just usually stick with colored pencil and watercolor. This self-portrait actually kind of represents a part of myself that I'm just starting to get comfortable with. I space out a lot. Not intentionally, not on purpose, and it happens a lot more often than I'd like to admit. So I thought I would just put it on some paper to kind of help represent that I'm kind of a spacey person. I have a miniature version of me floating out of my own head, and there's a little shark loaf above me. He's one of my most favorite characters to draw. I guess he's my comfort character. And I have a few other things floating around that mean a lot to me, like an aloe plant, which was actually one of the very first plants I owned and started my obsession with indoor gardening, and some art supplies, and obviously a coffee pot and some coffee because I cannot stop drinking coffee. After the watercolor is done, I generally move on to colored pencils. Colored pencils are how I bring out a lot of the emphasis and detail in my pieces rather than relying on watercolor or ink. for me, a lot of the challenge in this part was the hair. Not too practiced at it, but I'd like to think I'm getting a little better. Then we're just hitting it with some ink on the details that I'd really like to bring out up top. And we're gonna call it done, almost. And this is the final piece. Thank you guys so much for being here with me through my very first bead paint. It was a lot of fun to make. I'm actually really happy with the results. It's become a nice thing to look back on through my mess of a sketchbook. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys come back soon. See you later. Bye. And this is the final piece. Thank you guys so much for being here with me through my very first bead paint.